And welcome back to the Rally Report podcast. We have a couple great episodes, guys, lined up, so stay tuned for that. And we're going to kick us off with a Welsh player and one of the game's biggest social media giants right now, Emyr Evans. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on this podcast.
How are things going? How's the season? I know we were in contact and you were telling me about you're doing the Italian leagues right now. Is that correct? How'd that go?
Yeah, I just finished today. So I was here yesterday and now today. So we had two matches. One was pretty straightforward, and then today I had a decent one against Ollie Pet, which was good. And then the season's been great so far. I've probably maybe one tournament that I was disappointed with, but apart from that, it's been pretty good. Got some good scalps. Stayed consistent as well, which the ranking I'm at, it's so hard to break out that you can definitely do it 1 week, but you have to really back it up week to week to try and break through. So yeah.
What are your thoughts on the new tournament structure? It seems like they've broken it down to more levels. Are you a fan of it? Not a fan?
I'm for both really. I can see both sides, but obviously it's even harder with the new tier now. It's cut off at 35, I guess, maybe a bit lower. Just even harder. But then now the thing that I like that now is the lowest tier PSA World Tour event is now a copper, which is essentially what the 30k was. Which before I didn't really like the fact that a 30k was classed as a challenger tour, because you're essentially the number 1, 2 seed and number 3 are all playing World Tour events regularly, but they can play that event because obviously if they win it, it's good for them. So I didn't really like that to it, and now the highest challenger tour is the 15. So I think it is better. I think going forward, I think it is better. I mean, everyone's going to moan at something. There's no right way, but the fact that now it's more of a squash tour and seems more as one, I'm on board with that. There's so many good squash players that were classed as on the Challenger Tour that they, on the day, could easily beat World Tour players. It seemed a divide. That's what it felt. And I think players felt like that as well. So I think that it seems like we felt we really were on a different tour. And I know they're higher up. They deserve that. They backed up their level. But yeah, I think it's better.
So 15K, anything 50K and under would be Challenger Tour. And the copper level, would they call it the World Tour? Or is there a separate name for that for the Platinum and Diamond and all those events?
Yeah, so that is still the copper is a PSA World Tour event, but then it's copper, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond. Is that right? I think.
They're throwing in all kinds of names nowadays, so it's hard to keep up, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if that is trying to follow tennis. I'm not sure. I wouldn't really know, but yeah.
I was going to ask you, I know you've played the Challenger Tour, and obviously there's some divide now, but if you could shine us some insights on people who, I'm sure there are a lot of fans out there who only follow on the Platinum events and don't really realize the entertainment behind the Challenger Tour events. I particularly like them. I think it's something so raw about playing on the traditional courts, and it's such a dogfight out there. And yeah, just if you could shine us some insights, maybe some things that you don't really like about the Challenger Tour or anything outside of the Platinum events that maybe the audience don't really know about, and the brutalities behind it.
I could name quite a bit that I dislike.
Go for it.
I think foremost, being honest, the stuff that, I mean, players would agree with this is, I guess, some events it's deemed not as professional. Like it feels like it's not professional. There's a few factors and things that happen that you just like, that shouldn't happen. That should be a non-negotiable. Perfect example, I've played 15Ks in the past couple of months, and the one event, up until probably semis, that loser of every match had to referee. And you've got a 15K event where you had the Deck James, number 1 seed, and then players reffing other players. And I mean, someone from another sport walking in thinking, what on earth is going here? Like 15K standard, you're having top 70, maybe someone even 50, 40 potentially. Imagine that in tennis, like someone just walking in and into a big stadium and seeing another 50 in the world rank ref another player. And it was just like, I was fuming about that how there's some stuff that still just goes on. And, I, I try and change it. I try and email in. I don't email in often, sorry, but I did this time, and there didn't really seem much push for it to change.
What was the feedback what was the response when you emailed them?
I mean, they agreed, and they were like, yeah, we are trying to be more professional and cut stuff out, but, we do understand that, cause it's an extra cost for the event to put on if they provide referees, which I was like, okay, but that's a factor. If they can't do that, then sadly, maybe the event doesn't go on, because, like, again, a lot of these factors, what happens is the players are getting the gist of this, like something that's bad happening. It's always affecting the players, where the players are the foremost front of it. So then a few weeks later, we got an email that it was supposed to be 2 referees at a PSA event. One pulled out, which was fair enough. It was a late cancellation, but now players might require to ref some of the matches. And I replied being like, no, like, I'm not doing it. And I said, if I get asked, even if I win or lose, I refuse. And then they were saying, well, you can't refuse. You're not allowed. And I was like, oh my, like, this is crazy.
What would happen? What would happen if
I-
you just leave and not ref the net? They penalize you?
Maybe they would fine. I don't know how big the fine. I really think you could probably argue your corner there. You could say you had a flight, or I don't know. You could say anything really, but I think what people outside that Challenger Tour, they will see the difference in terms of professionalism, but the squash is right up there, and you see a lot of people that play World Tour events regularly, and then they'll have to play a 15. They'll have to come down to try and improve the level, and they could play all right, but they'll lose to some guys as well. And it is a dogfight, but we're not hard done by, because to get out of that, you need to be good enough. You need to be consistently backing up those 15Ks 3-4 times a year to get out, and then to get into your bronzes and silvers and get those wins. But yeah, I think there's stuff that just goes on that just don't know why it's getting accepted.
I see. Is there anything else outside of the refereeing nonsense that you might want to mention of the nonsense?
I think someone on site, like a PSA representative, there's been a lot of issues that probably someone needs to be there, because something's happening now, and there's no one there's no one to go to. That's a big thing. I know, again, they'll say it's cost, but you need someone there. Like, if something happens, you need something there. But that's not taken away. There is some Challenger Tour events that are run brilliantly, and I've been to a few that have felt bigger than they are, and they've looked after you great. Um, so like, yeah, I've got to praise the ones that are really good, and especially in like America and Canada, you see some good ones, and they like host and they really look after you. So yeah.
Any events in particular you want to give a shout out to that do an excellent job?
Uh, I'll give a shout out to the Oregon Open because I won it last year. Um, but but
They keep it up, and you keep winning.
but yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I've been there the once before I won it, and I lost like second round, and it was brilliant then. So, yeah, they looked after me. I mean, there's a lot, like especially America, Canada way. Like, it's not really been to one where I thought this is horrendous. Like they've all been great, and they really appreciate what you do as well. Like the families that you stay with, and they're like, it's just so cool that you do this as a job, and they really respect like how hard it is as well. And they literally treat you as if you're at home. So, yeah, there was one that I loved playing. Sadly, the club closed in COVID. It was Bankers Hall, in Calgary. It was a great one. Family that say were there that I'm close with were really nice, but that event was fantastic as well.
I was going to ask, what elements do you think in your game are you looking to improve to get you into the top 50 and onwards? And I'm sure there's like the consistency element, but is there anything in specific that you're working on to hopefully get you past I know you've been chipping away in the rankings anyway.
Yes, it is a long grind, and I think the way I am, I might be able to do things, but it just takes much longer than maybe someone else would do it. I mean, you know, the brutality of it, it's always important that I want to try and be as fit as I can, and smoother as well in my movement. Sometimes some movements, like for me, it becomes too big. Like, great, I can pick up some balls, or, you know, you can chuck a leg out, which is great. I do like doing that, but also being smooth as well, because you've got backup matches. And yeah, so that's a big thing, and on constantly working on my squash is, yeah, there's always so much you can do. So, yeah, forehand's always been a work in progress. It was flat as a pancake probably 10 years ago. So, yeah. So yeah, and yeah, trying to keep more consistent the past couple of years, well, last year or so at this level, I've definitely been more consistent, which has helped. And, yeah.
And who are you currently working with? I saw on the websites Josh Taylor and Miles Jenkins. I didn't know if that's outdated or if that's the current lineup of coaches you have.
Yeah, that's correct. Obviously I've got my dad as well that from juniors as well that I've worked with. And then so Miles and Josh Taylor worked with. I'm trying to think how long, maybe like 4-5 years, could be a bit longer. But now he's moved to the States, but obviously I'm not seeing him as much, but we're still keeping contact, and he is still one of my coaches. And then when Josh recently moved to DC, then I started working with Miles, who I've known for a while as well, a good friend. And on the tour, he's not playing as many events now, but he was. So it was a good fit because he knew my game very well. And I enjoy the sessions. They're really good, and always stuff he's pointing out that I probably wouldn't in different aspects. So yeah, those who I'm working with.
Yeah, I was going to ask you this because I feel like, especially nowadays, there's such a huge buzz around, these coaches becoming such celebrity names themselves within the community, and was going to ask, how do you approach when it comes to, perhaps maybe trying to get a new coach, or when you're trying to get these bigger name coaches? I don't know if, like, how do you approach that? Have you thought about, maybe switching to one of those big name coaches? I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than just asking them to coach you, but yeah, just going to ask
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, big names have never been like the thought of why I would want to work with. So, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm sure they're great coaches, but I've never been, or it has to be someone that's done this or done that if I thought they've got really good knowledge to offer. And, you know, like Josh, for example, played a bit on tour, but obviously wasn't like top, but as a coach, he's like one of the best. And like same with Miles, but, obviously Miles, top 100, if not higher really level. That, the knowledge, what they've got to offer is brilliant. And it's never been, has to be a big name or has to be this person. Miles was just, well, because we know each other anyway, I literally just gave him a longest text saying, would you want to work with me? And he was like, yeah, that sounds class, mate. So it was as simple as that, really. And, I'm like 3-4 hours away from London where he is. So I'll go down now and again and get some sessions in.
Have you thought about moving? You just mentioned that Josh moving to the US. Given that all the tournaments are well organized in the US and Canada, has that ever dawned on you to maybe move bases?
Definitely not out the UK. I've never wanted to do that. Where I live, except for my sister, there's obviously not really many people to hit with. When Josh was still there, and Finn Withington as well in Manchester, that's only an hour, so I was quite close still. But sometimes I go to Birmingham as well to get on with Joel if he's at home. And like people have said, it'd be easier to move to maybe like Birmingham, Midlands or Manchester? And I thought about it, but to be honest, I love home so much, as in, it would be great to move, but I really don't think I would settle in well. I like to switch off quite a lot, to be honest, after squash. Spend time with my girlfriend and my family. And if I was involved with the squash scene too much day to day, I guess I've not been used to that. But I like the fact that after training, and as long as I've got good hits in for the week, I know I'm coming home and switching off. And I think over the years I've been forced to do a lot of good stuff off court, because I've had sometimes because there's not been players there, I've been right. If I'm going to go on court, I need to do a good ghosting session here. And there's benefits to that because you don't see anyone. You can just walk in, warm up. There's no distractions. You're going to get it done without any interruptions. So I think that is harder as well in itself, to turn up on your own on court.
Right.
And push it. You have to push yourself. It has to come from you. So I think that side has helped me as well. So, I would never move, I don't think.
And I did see through the research that a bit of a fan of as a dog walker. That's something I like to do.
Yeah.
Outside of squash. Yeah. maybe go full time with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure the cash is good.
That honestly would be like brilliant. So I live right next to the beach. And I've grown up with dogs, and, honestly, like 2-3 dogs, like on a walk on the beach. I just couldn't think of a better life. Fresh air, and dogs are honestly like, they're better than humans, aren't they, really? So,
definitely can agree with that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, so obviously I've obviously seen the videos on social media as well on like, you training with different players, especially obviously you have access to Joel Makin as well as you as a teammate, Welsh teammate as well. Um, how are those training sessions? Do those training sessions kind of give you more confidence that your level isn't too behind someone within the top 10? Is it more so dejecting to see the level difference? Like, how do you feel when you have those sessions with those top players?
I mean, after it, you feel really good because maybe not at the time because obviously you are under a lot of pressure, but you feel confident because for example, if you've played some sort of rallies or games, and when you then go and play someone else, you feel a difference because you're almost expecting the pace that Joel sets
Mm.
up, which blows you away for a bit. Well, blows you away for all of it, but you're trying to keep up. And then when you go and play someone else, you're almost like expecting it, but it's not there. So, and it definitely brings my level up for sure. And, and it's very valuable because he gives advice as well. Like he will notice things that maybe you're trying to do, or he'll say, do that. This would be better. And so you're almost, as well as like the physicality and the squash side, you're also getting advice, which obviously he doesn't have to do, but, um, yeah, it's really good. I always come away, even if most of the time we've played games and he's chopped me, um, put me in a hole, but, you learn so much and it does bring your level up as well.
That's wonderful. So I was going to ask, Mir, obviously one of the awesome things that you do is really blow up the social media on Instagram. It's been an absolute joy watching the content as a squash fan, and you aren't one to shy away from the shortcomings of the PSA. And I was curious, what started this social media journey of kind of doing these reels, doing these video contents. And I was going to ask, have you been fined yet from the PSA? I know they're very cutthroat with what you can say and what you can't say, and how that feedback's been.
I haven't been fined. I think probably because the one about the referees, a lot of players reshared it, commented, the top ones as well. So probably maybe in a position that got everyone else is agreeing with this. But I guess the referees directive maybe coming from the WSO, so it's essentially not PSA maybe. But yeah, I really enjoy the social media side. I think there's a lot more players doing it now, which is great, but I think it's still quite niche. And there's a market for a lot of good content, and I enjoy it as well. Like I don't find it hard work. Um, yeah, I enjoy that side, and it started off just from doing training stuff, and then I saw some like funny content from other people, and I thought maybe this would like show maybe who I am more instead of just, a boring, here's a squash drill. Actually maybe do something funny or make it a bit more realistic. And people seem to enjoy it. So trying to think of a few more funny ideas to keep it
I
up.
thought I thought the reffing one was absolutely brilliant. The timing was great. I thought this, especially this beginning of the season, it's fucking nonsense. I don't know what the hell was going on there with the reffing. Just, you can't talk back at all or even ask. So
Yeah, I can. So I think it was starting. I played a 50k in maybe like April or March, and it was kind of coming in then, but I didn't take obviously because that was my first World Tour event, and so I didn't really like. I was like, yeah, whatever, and I was playing Bernat from Spain first game, and it was about 5-all, and after the decision that I thought it was a stroke, and he gave a let, and I just turned around going, oh, why is that stroke? Why is that not stroke? And he was like, Mr. Evans, be careful. And I was like, I've just just asked why not stroke? And then Bernat just like whispered to me, went, mate, be careful, these refs. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm a bit shocked now. And then I think I did end up getting a conduct warning or stroke, and he did as well. So that was like, wow. It was like being in school, really. It was just, uh, don't say this, like, don't say that, be quiet. It's like, come on, like, these squash players some of them have got great characters, personality, just, unless they're being abusive or annoying, just let them come out, because it's funny and it's what people want to see. But, yeah, I mean, it could meet in the middle, the referee's directive. Maybe I get the blocking and going to play the ball 100%. So maybe it's their way trying to meet in the middle, but the other side of not being able to say anything you feel, or even like I was watching was it the Sal Mohammed one, which I don't know if you saw that in Egypt in the backcourt.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was the worst thing I've seen in terms of ref player implosion.
Yeah, and there's a few stuff that was like maybe wrong or a bit weird, but they had like an incident and it was getting very tense, and then Asal like won a point and kind of just like went come on in his face, and that I think is brilliant. Like unless it's like he literally like just did it quickly, and then I was like, that's great, like brilliant, that's what we want to see. And then it's like, no, you can't do that. And it's like, two people are competing, it's going to get tense. If someone wants to scream come on in the face, great, it's up to you to try and deal with it. And you used to see that so much back in the day with like Power and all them, and like
Yeah.
you don't want to take that away. You really like it's comedy gold, some of that stuff.
I mean, I was thinking if Gregory Golte was playing in today's game, he'd be banned for life with all the celebrating he did.
Exactly, and he's like missed so much because of how much he was like entertained, and you'd always tune in to watch his match because he'd either be like hustling out an injury or like then like giving it like one of these to the crowd. And you honestly, like me and Finn Withington a while back, he got video of the one when he just came back and he beat Mossad in TOC, and the celebrations were I was just sat there for about 10 minutes just constant laughing. It's so good to go back and watch stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think one of your most recent videos, I think, was touching upon interviews with post-match interviews and I've always been such a proponent of, wanting you guys to be interviewed when you lose. Obviously, it won't be great to be interviewed right after you lose, but I think the best nuggets would definitely come out during a loss. I guess I'm curious to get your thoughts on if that's been something that's been pushed amongst the players, or if you guys have been ever interviewed when you lose a match in terms of a press conference. I know like tennis does that all the time, which is great. You get those raw, natural takes. But
I mean, I'm all for it. I don't know I think there's some players that would. I don't know if everyone, but yeah, that's what I want to see. I want someone moody and giving rubbish answers because they're annoyed. The post-match loss, I really don't get why the only instant is when it's a final and the runner-up's lost. So there needs to be more. I remember actually, it was like maybe a few years ago that for one event they seemed to do it, and Amanda Sobey happened to lose. I think she lost, and she actually moaned about her opponent's blocking, and was annoyed why the referee didn't do anything about it. And that's exactly what you want, isn't it? Someone wants to ask you a question, you want to give an answer. I just think as squash are we too scared? Like for someone to say, if someone says something out of normal, out of the ordinary, that's a bit controversial, everyone's like, whoa, I can't believe he said that. And the way other sports are going and like everyone's doing it, everyone will come out and say this about that or this about someone. I don't
Right.
get why this should be an issue. And it's nothing to do with like everyone respects each other, everyone respects players, but if you have an opinion, like you can say it, why not? And
Yeah.
there needs to be more on the pre-match as well. The pre-match, pre-tournament.
I mean, that'd be nice to sort of pre-match. Just get your thoughts on a certain player that you're up against. Tell them pretty easy opponent for today. Should be easy three love win.
Yeah, I'm gonna win today. He's not been playing well. Technique's not the best, but yeah, I should be fine. I'm thinking more ahead really in the next few days. It's just a light one. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I mean, I know you. It seems like you get along very well with a lot of fellow PSA players, and I was curious, how do you separate? You know, obviously squash is such a small sport in that way that you get access to different players, and players aren't gatekeeping themselves from training. So you get the access to training, getting closer with them, also just the time spent with them over the tour. And separating that from actually competing against them. Is that something that you've struggled against? Is that something you are able to do? How's that been like?
Yeah, I've not really struggled with that side. People that I'm friends with, I've played like a lot really, and I've not really struggled with that side. I see it as when you're off court, you don't want to really try and be like too serious because it gets quite gets painful because you're just like, this is hard work. Like you want to just be dialed in on the match day, of course, but you go for your practice hit and then once you're back in your room, you're chilling out anyway. But after your match and maybe in the morning, like I just, be yourself. Cause for me, if I'm like that, I end up just blowing up because I'm like, this is too much. It's too
very
serious.
Stressful. Yeah, sure. It's the stress you get from it. I was also going to ask about your relationship with Tesni. I'm sure you get fucking asked this all the time about your relationship with your sister, but I hate to just pile on those questions, but I guess trying to switch it up a little in terms of how to ask this question. Did you always know she was going to have the success she was going to have on the women's side of the tour? Was that something that you kind of envisioned? And also, has that bothered you in terms of your guys' journey? You might not have moved up as quickly as she did in the rankings when you guys were younger. Has that bothered you a little bit? Were you fine with that? Curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not bothered by it. Like I'm obviously so happy and proud that what she's achieved and achieving now as well. It's never bothered me really. More just wanted obviously to see her do so well. I mean, when she first went on the tour and started playing, I guess I was maybe like 15, 14. So I was quite young and not really too much aware of the pro scene. Once I was getting a bit older and then obviously watched so many of her matches, I think I knew she had ability for sure when she got to a certain ranking before like top 20. You could see that she had the squash for sure. Just from playing other people that were inside the top 20 and she might have just lost but you could see like the squash was certainly there and you see it now. Like unfortunately she dropped, she had injury and she was out for a while. So she dropped the ranking, but you knew wherever she was ranked, that's not her level. Her level on the day. And, so I guess, can you always predict someone top 10? It's so hard. It's so easy for someone to say they're talented and they'll get to top 10, but there's so many other things behind it that requires obviously hard work and the mental side of it. It's not just obviously the squash and a bit of luck as well, but she's achieved a lot. Commonwealth medal as well, 9 in the world. It's pretty impressive, but I'd say top 20, yeah. Top 20, I would definitely say that she would have done that, but it, it's hard for me to sit here and go, yeah, I knew she was definitely going to be top 10. When you watch her, she is top 10 level, but, at the time, it would have been hard to say that because you don't know, do you?
Right. I mean, she's coming back with vengeance right now. I think she just won the big tournament.
She is. She's coming out.
Yeah.
I think next week she goes back inside the top 20, which is great. And hopefully she can climb up a bit more as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask, how do you go about strategizing tournaments and which tournaments to play over a calendar year during a season? I'm sure the costing behind, because these tournaments are everywhere, the costing behind these tournaments financially it can't be easy. And I was going to ask you a little bit about how you go about picking which tournaments to play. Obviously, I'm sure in an ideal, maybe not even an ideal scenario, you want to play as many events, or like, do you even go about playing as many events as possible? Do you pick and choose? How do you go about it?
In terms of event with the divisor, a perfect amount, I guess, would be 15 tournaments a year. You don't really want to play loads more than that or loads more than 16, really. Because obviously, even if you get some good points, it's even more tournaments you have, it'll affect your divisor. So you want to have that good average. It's like people might not realize this, but it's so like on the day of the deadline, a lot of the deadlines you're in 3, 4, 5 events clashing, and then it's really like a dogfight. So they close at UK time it's 3 p.m. they close, and no one budges. Like everyone's in 5 tournaments that are clashing, and probably people start at maybe 20 minutes to 3, then 1:45, then 10 to. People start moving. So you have an idea that if you're playing a certain event, you'd be like, ideally, I'd like to be top 8 seed or top 4. Or like for me, if I'm going to enter a bronze or a silver, that's just get in. If you just get in,
right,
that's great. You'll go. But the cost side is obviously huge. And essentially, it's not more the flights that I think add up. It's all the other little food is massive. How much food costs, accommodation. I mean, flights, yeah, you can get expensive flight, but it's the other little bits, Ubers, that all stuff. It's, majority of the players, not, I guess, world tour, but you accepting a loss sometimes, most events, depending like if you've got sponsors or government support or funding from the country. But it's, for me, I couldn't, if I'm in the summer now and I'm like, you're asking me, right, what tournaments you can play from September to June, I couldn't tell you. I could maybe tell you September, October, I would like to play that, but I don't know. And then any other events that you'll be in at your level, you're like, I don't know, because what if it's too strong, or I'm not in the position, or I haven't checked flights yet. It could be expensive. So it's actually, you can't really plan. The only way you can plan is once that closes, you're organised and you book flights early and stuff, so you can save costs that way. But unless you're, I guess now top 35, you're going to play those big events and then play a few 100Ks or a silver, and then that's you done. So, yeah.
How is the sponsorship with you? Has the financial aspect of like getting sponsorships, or as you said, getting funding for your country? I'm not sure if you are getting funding from your country right now. How has that been?
I've been very fortunate. I get funding from Sport Wales, um, which helps, which helps massively. And um, I've I've got someone else that's helped me out as well as a sponsor that I know locally, which helps.
Hmm.
But obviously, it's still that doesn't mean like you're completely fine. It's still so hard, and I know there's a lot of people that have to require to do coaching, which is hard because obviously it takes away the training sometimes, or you training and then ideally you'd want to just relax after training, but people are having to coach. If you're in the UK, the leagues help massively as well. I think squash in general is actually hard to get sponsors. Um, it's really hard to get people. There's a lot of good people investing as well, but it's really not easy unless you'll have those one or two people that will are all in, but
Hmm.
there's not many of them around. Um, and I think as a sport, it does seem it's hard to get sponsors.
No, I appreciate you shining light on these stuff. I feel like a lot of people might not know, and they only see the beauty behind like the top 20 and people who are trying to work up there. It's fantastic to
Yeah.
hear your perspective on it. But I guess to kind of wrap up the questions in terms of what I had to ask was, what's the next event for you, and what's the goal of this season? What are you trying to aim at?
The next event is shortly, actually, in a few days. I've got tomorrow I'll be flying to Qatar for a 50k bronze event, which is pretty good. It's a big one.
Is the draw
And
out?
then yeah, the draw's out, so I'm seeded. I've got Mazen Gamal from Egypt, um,
Easy,
which will be
easy
tough.
3-0 victory for you. I'm sure his technique is lacking.
Yeah, no, it'd be funny if there was a mic in front of me on the night before the match, and then someone's like, "Right, what do you think of him?" Um, it, I'd like to think it'd be pretty ballsy to just go, "Yeah, I'm gonna win," and then if I lose, I can just put an excuse on my Instagram. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't do that. That's not me. um, but yeah, I played him a few weeks ago and I managed to win in five. But we've played a few times. It's
Mhm.
definitely not easy. I'll have to be on my mettle for that one. And then goals for the season. I mean, yeah, it's easy to say. Yeah, I'd love to be top 50. That would be a big goal to try and break through that. But also, yeah, I want to, especially like the 15Ks and stuff that you need to win them more um, consistently to try and break through out where I am now, as well as it's still hot, like still hard where I am now because there's so many good players. But um, yeah, top 50 is, it'd be hard to do, I guess, by the end of the season unless I do win some of the events. So um, I'm not trying to put a time on it as long as I can. What I've done the past few months, keep doing that. Because points have gone up slowly, and I was 75 and I went to 70, which doesn't sound a lot, but originally when I went to 75, the average from that to 70 was actually a bit of a jump. So
Mhm.
trying to just maybe do a few of them and keep playing good squash. That's what it's all about.
Let's go. Fantastic. Well, man, we're going to switch to the quickfire segment now. This is going to be a bit more fun than the blind interview I'm conducting here.
Okay.
But I wanted to start this off with blind rankings. Are you familiar with those blind rankings? They do it in football. I know you're a Liverpool fan, so
Is
we're
that when you
I'll
rank
give you
people
some
in order?
names. Yeah, give you some names without you knowing which name's going to come next, and you just rank them accordingly. And
Okay.
I'll let you swap one at the end, and that'll be the final ranking for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
First name, I'll give you 5 names. First name is Ollie Farag.
Wow. Uh, two.
2. Gregor Gaultier.
3.
Mohamed El Shorbagy.
Oh, 4.
Nick Matthew.
1.
Amr Shabana.
Oh,
I guess
Jesus.
5.
5.
I'll let you swap one. How would you switch? How do you swap it?
I potentially would switch Ali. I think maybe an extra, yeah, Ali, Ali at 1, Ali at
Mm-hmm.
1, Nick at 2. Yeah, yeah,
I say.
that's, yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, all great players. Gaultier was my favorite for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, Gaultier was definitely my favorite.
No, I think same here. I know a lot of people on the forums and stuff talk about how this is a weaker generation and that Farog's coasting off of that. What are your thoughts on that? As someone who's actually on the tour and knows the level that these guys are playing at.
It's so hard to compare, isn't it? The 100% the depth of the tour is the best it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, when you had Nick, Greg, Rami, Shabana, Mohammed, and you even had people like Jimbo, you had like Peter Barker, like just getting quarterfinals. I wouldn't want to say which year is better because it's hard. It's also hard to say when you haven't played in that category as well, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I've not played at a top 10, top 20 category, so I guess it's favoritism. But also the game's a bit different as well now. Are you getting me to say which one's better, which eras?
I'd love for you to choose, but
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to beat that Nick Mohammed, Rami, Shabs.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that will get beaten, to be honest. But yeah,
Too humble, too nice about it. Thought you'd say your generation right now is the best it's ever been.
I mean, from a certain ranking below 100%, like what, like how low of a ranking could beat someone quite high. I don't think would have happened before. But I mean, there's players that, like, if you think we're top 20, like people like Cameron Pilley, for example, like, was he 11 in the world? Like, you think of someone like him who he was against and competing with. It's so hard to, yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to answer that.
Moving on, these are just a couple quick fire questions. I'm going to come at you with just quick answers, or maybe you can give it a little more thought. But first off, who do you think is the best ref on tour right now?
Yeah, I mean, the referees can make mistakes. I like referees on how they ref in terms of their manner as well. I think it's really important because it sets the tone. I quite like Jason Foster. I think he's just got a nice, polite manner. So I'll go for him. I guess it could be biased if I say Roy Gingell. So I'll go with Jason, but he lives in Wales as well. So
there is bias.
There is bias. Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite player right now on tour right now?
Diego.
Yeah, so smooth. Best dressed player on tour.
Best dressed player. Oh, I guess he can pull anything off. Miguel
Yeah.
could come out with some best dress. Trying to think of a niche one. I feel like there's someone quite niche that people wouldn't go with, but maybe I would see him around a lot more. Um, yeah, I'll just have to go with Miguel.
I mean, those Carkle kits are pretty colorful, I'd say.
I
You guys
know,
are,
but
you,
yeah, you want it to be class, well, not classy, but sometimes colors too bright aren't always great, I guess. But then they can work. Yeah, feel like I'm missing someone that's got some
how
pretty
about
cool
how about worst dressed?
worst dressed.
Yeah.
Worst dressed. Hmm. I honestly don't know.
Oh, taking the
Worst dressed.
cop out. Taking the cop out.
Come on, there's got to be someone worst dressed. Um, I mean, I saw Dimitri Simon wear a suit at the Qatar Classic coaching Nicky, which I don't know what that was all about. So, um,
I did see that.
yeah, uh, I'll just chuck him out.
Yeah. A PSA player that you would like to see in the commentators booth.
Uh, Joel, Joel would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh,
He seems fantastic.
just someone with obviously a knowledge, but just, I guess, not closed off as well. That's gonna say so. I actually really enjoy when Daryl's been on there. Daryl Selby's
Mm-hmm.
really good on there. I think it's good, isn't it, when there's a few people that come in now and again. It keeps it quite fresh. Um,
I really like it when you
I
guys,
guess,
any of the PSA players, jump on it. I think it just gives a different
yeah.
perspective from the usual commentators.
People are more tuned in, right? They
Yeah.
realize it's a different voice, and then they're like, oh, okay. And they feel like they're getting a bit of insight because obviously you're playing as well.
Yeah. Coaching post career, is that in the books?
It depends if I dog walk or not. um, I'm not against it. I definitely still want to stay in the sport, and I would want to coach, I think, but I don't know. I don't know how much or in what aspect. Is it more on court or off court? I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know what I'm gonna do after squash, which is a bit worrying. Um, I guess that's right.
Maybe we can start thinking about it from today onwards. After this,
I know. People. I got asked it when I was like 23, 24, and I was like, well, why do I need to think about it now? And now I'm nearly 28, and I'm like, I'm approaching 30. There should be something that's kind of. I mean, to be fair, if you asked me 3, 4 years ago, I'd say no to coaching. So, and now I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So, I find it hard to think of coaching now whilst I'm playing, if that makes sense, because obviously I'm quite, you're focused on training and you're like, why do I want to coach that much? Because when am I going to train? But then you're going to coach when you stop playing. So you're not going to be thinking about training. So, I guess I'd have more of a clear head once I have an idea when I'm going to stop.
last two. Most underrated player on tour.
Most underrated player on tour, Yusuf Solomon.
Wow. You think he should be in the top 10?
I mean, he's knocking on the door, but I think he lost to, I don't know actually if he is above Yao, but he lost to Yao today, obviously.
Yeah, I saw that. I honestly didn't
but-
expect that. I thought yeah, I would lose, but
Yeah, I guess
That-
in Malaysia as well. And Yusuf had very tight match the day before, but yeah, I think he doesn't lose really to anyone below him, and um, yeah, I think he's very underrated.
mhm. That's funny you say his name. I think I have him up next for the next episode, so hopefully
Oh, nice.
we'll get his stuff. We'll
Are you
get his.
Are you gonna ask who's the most overrated?
Yeah, you're pretty good. Yeah, I was going to ask that right now.
Were you actually?
Well, yeah, that's my last question. Most overrated player on tour.
Oh wow, I can't. Yeah, that's definitely a no-go, surely.
Emyr, I think I got two or three players out of the like 50 something episodes I've done to actually answer this question.
Who answered it?
Who's answered in the past? I think Timmy might have answered this question, and I think Ramit might have answered this question.
Overrated player. Can you remember what they said?
I remember one answer being Miguel. Someone say I think he's coasting off the points he has.
I guess because he got to top 4 British Open and then
I'll let you cop out of this one. I'll change the question, but if you can't answer this, it would be unbelievable.
I do have someone in mind, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd be able to sleep tonight, to be honest. I'm all for like saying what you think, definitely, and I will, but that one
No, fair enough. I won't push it too
Yeah.
far. I'll switch the question to one player you don't like playing on tour then.
one player I don't like playing. Yeah, I'll answer that. I've played obviously a few of the top guys in like team events, but yeah, the person I don't like playing actually is Greg Lobban.
Do you mind elaborating?
Yeah, not definitely not as a person, like nothing to do with
No.
that. In terms of actually, as a squash, I find quite hard actually. I mean,
I'd actually
Fine.
follow up on this. I follow up on this. I feel like as a spectator too, I don't really quite understand what in his game that makes it so difficult, because I feel like a lot of players actually have a lot of trouble beating him, and he's got very good results over the years. And he doesn't seem on paper like, I feel like as a fan, he doesn't have like the explosiveness that you might think, that the classic type of traits. So I'm curious to get your insight on like what makes his game so difficult.
I mean, yeah, he protects himself well, but his squash is good. I feel like I find it very hard to generate too much pace with him. I feel like he takes the pace off a lot. So then I feel like that's a great quality of his. I get dragged into it. So then I feel like I'm not forcing anything. As in I am forcing stuff, and then I find it really hard to hit with pace because he's almost not slow balling, but slow balling, and then he holds a bit as well. It just feels it feels a bit uncomfortable. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this if we're going to play again soon, because he's going to be just loving that, isn't he? But I just yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest, I find it really hard to play. Really hard.
Cool. Let's see. Well, thanks for answering that. I'm probably gonna wrap it up there. I know that was way over what I told you what time it was going to be, but yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And now Emyr and I are going to talk offline about who he really thinks the most overrated player on tour is. So I'm really excited for this conversation to continue.
Okay.